Ina here, and I'm excited to welcome you to our second episode of the EGA Flosstube. If you watched the first episode, you saw my friends and I share our seminar whip projects. This week, we take a different turn, and we will be sharing with you our seminar piece finishes. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Patty, and I'm going to talk to you about a seminar finished object. This was a finished object from my very first EGA seminar. Embroiderers Guild of America has a seminar every year where we get together and learn embroidery in classes and have a great time. This was my very first seminar in 2006 in Richmond, Virginia, and this is my finished object. It is called the Hummingbird pin case, and the designer and teacher is Marcia Pepe Gamola, and it was wonderful. We learned so much. It was just terrific. We learned thread painting. We learned to put a little bit of gold work on there. We put on spangles. We made this sweet spider web with a spider and another spider web down here. We learned how to do three-dimensional, the one wing is three-dimensional and the flower is three-dimensional, but the flower and the body of the hummingbird are padded with felt and then stitched over top. And the rest of the decoration is cross-stitch over one on the front and the back, and then it's assembled over cardboard with padded felt and muslin, and you stitch it all together yourself. I loved doing the finishing. It was great fun, and I'll show you the inside. This is a pin case to hold your counting pins for when you're setting up to do embroidery. You very often have to count your fabric and mark it. So this has, look at all the stitching that's inside. It was really fun. That is a padded band to put your pins in. It's dimensional. I don't know if you can see, but it's padded with felt. And that is not separate fabric. That is linen threads that you literally do a satin stitch across, and then you go back with the opposite, with the contrasting color, and you do a twill weave down through all of the satin stitches so that you're literally weaving this piece of fabric on top of the fabric itself by stitching through it. That was fun. I put bees on instead of the ladybugs that she had us do, because I don't like ladybugs, I like bees. So I copied these bees from a book by Jane Nicholas, and I put those on. And there's more spiders and more spangles and more cross stitch. It was really fun. I can't even tell you. It was just a magical time. It's my very first seminar piece. I loved it. I hope you do too. Bye.
Hello, my name is Jean, and I'm a member of the Embroiderers Guild of America, also known as EGA. Today I'd like to share with you a project I did at one of EGA's national seminars. It was in 2015 in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's called Southwestern Pots. The designer was Kayla Kahn Tyler. However, she really encouraged us to do our own thing with it. She gave us a variety of shapes that the pots could be and possible suggestions for designs on the inside. But I partly chose something I really wanted on the inside, and it's the one that's here in the front, and it's called The Man in the Maze. And this was my inspiration. Unfortunately, the pot had a little run-in with my cat and didn't come out too well. I still hope to put part of it back together. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you at a seminar.
Hi, I'm Patty, and I'm going to show you my finished object from the Embroiderers Guild of America seminar 2011 in Naples, Florida. It's called the Wild Sweet Pea and Longhorn Moth Panel. It's by Jane Nicholas, and she's a wonderful teacher. She's from Australia, and it's my favorite technique. It's stump work. Some like to call it historically three-dimensional embroidery. It is all done in silk threads on silk satin, and those are silk ribbons around the border, and couched with gold beads and gold wire and cording. It was a wonderful, wonderful class. Jane walks around and does these fantastic drawings to walk you through every step. The piece itself is every stage of the wild sweet pea. There's the little tiny buds. These are silk threads wrapped around a wire to create these tendrils. It shoots out these tendrils to hold itself up. It attaches it to itself to things. And then it has these fantastic striated leaves that we did on a separate piece of fabric and cut them out with a buttonhole stitch, very tight buttonhole stitch around the edge, around wire. And the stem itself is sort of in these bracts. It's in these different segments. And then, so you learn a lot about the structure of the wild sweet pea while you're working on this piece. And all of the blossoms in their various stages are done the same way with this tight buttonhole stitch over wire on a separate piece of fabric. And then you go back and put it into the fabric, and then you add the calyxes. This is the actual blossom head on, where you can see these individual petals. This is the actual pea itself, and you can't tell, but inside of here there are beads, there are peas, and when it dries, this is the depiction of when it dries and starts to twist, and it cracks open, and the little peas fall out onto the ground so that it regerminates itself. And that's how it grows. This is the longhorn moth. And there really is a moth with antenna this long called the longhorn moth. The wings are done on a separate piece of fabric on this beautiful metallic organza. And then you cut it out and you put the gold veining on it, and you insert them into this pre-stitched moth body. The body up here, the thorax, is done in a velvet chenille thread so that it's fuzzy. I don't know if you can see that. And there's beads for the head, and these tiny little silk threads that make his legs. It was just a wonderful class. We had a great time. That's my piece from Seminar 2011 in Naples, Florida.
Hi, I'm Jana, and I wanted to share a finish with you that I did from a mini class that was the evening before the formal start of the 2019 seminar that was held in St. Louis. A lot of times you don't hear people talk a lot about the mini classes. Mini classes that are traditionally offered the night before the seminar starts. They're usually 2 to 3 hours in length, and they're often taught by somebody from a chapter either within the region or chapter right around where the seminar is. This particular one, while this wasn't the main focus of that particular mini class, it was the piece that we did because it showed us how to actually finish the piece that we were actually going to be stitching. I call this the turkey berry because it's like a strawberry, got a strawberry shape, but it's a felt turkey that was built around it. It was not the actual piece that had been advertised that was going to be taught, but it was something that actually showed how to finish it. This was the piece that we saw that was meant to be part of the class, and it really was. But it was on 32 count Lugana, cross-stitched over one thread. And while we got to start it,
there was no way we were going to finish all that stitching, because the more important part was, how do we finish this up into a strawberry? Because there's a whole different, almost an art to how you can finish this to look like a strawberry, have it stuffed properly, have a top with all the leaves, because every strawberry has leaves on top. And then we had this ribbon that was on the top as the final decoration with the hanger cord. One of the really neat things about this class was she showed other ways you could stitch up a strawberry. It wasn't a sort of a one-trick pony. So I took pictures with her permission. This was taught by Sharon Maxwell out of the Santa Fe Trail chapter in Overland Park, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City. She had a tree like this that was just filled with different kinds of strawberries. So you can see here's one that was pulled thread. Here's one that was just plain fabric, but it had the felt leaves up on top and a different kind of hanger cord on it. Here's one that's kind of behind the post, but this is all beads up on top in making up the leaves. There's one down here that was cut work. Who would have thought cut work for a top? But that's what this person did for this particular strawberry. And way down here at the bottom is a black work strawberry with a crazy ruching of ribbon right here for its top. There's a Bargello one that she had hanging. Here's one that's completely embracing cut work. Another pulled thread one over here, and you can see how the top looks a little bit different. It's actually a fabric top, and it's a twisted cord hanger on it. Here's one that was white work that was done, and this one had a stump work ladybug on it. This one is exactly as it looks. Those are all French knots, if that is to be believed. And this one right behind it, that is a giant spider's web for the leaf cap of that strawberry. And we even had a Halloween one, so it doesn't have to be sort of a Christmassy thing or a Halloween thing. It can be any season. Here's one that has all kinds of Bargello in it. But this is ultimately what we were stitching with the turkey berry. Kind of hard to call it a turkey strawberry, so we kept referring to it as a turkey berry. So I'm going to have this under my document camera so you can see it maybe just a little bit better. So when we did this, we learned how to make the strawberry body. This is just a plain piece of quilting fabric. You can use any color pattern that you want. She just happened to provide us with this. We did have to learn how to stuff it, and you do stuff it a lot more firmly than you think you might, because it really has to hold up. Then we had all these different felt pieces. We had a felt piece for the head, and you can see that there's some buttonhole stitching around the edges, which helps define it and secure it. The eye was just a big giant French knot. You could use a bead instead, which I did when I made others. And you've got just a little tiny piece that was glued on for the beak. And then you have a wattle, which we didn't do any blanket stitch around it because very little of it shows. Then we have all these leaves. So we had to blanket stitch around each one of the leaves. And we did this all with DMC floss. And then we would decide how we wanted to arrange the leaves. The base of it is essentially just a cone that we would put together, and it got stitched up the back. Then we would slip the cone on the base of the strawberry, because the cone was the part that was going to hold the turkey's feathers. So we would stick the turkey's feathers in there, and they are actually glued into place. And then this is glued on top after you've got the wattle glued underneath it. So it was a lot of fun. And then as part of the top with the ribbon, this to me was a little harder. You would basically take your ribbon and ruche it. Run a bunch of running stitches down the center and just pull up the running stitches to get this little effect up here. And then you would have your hanger cord coming out of the center and attach that. So that was the turkey berry from the mini class. So if you ever look at going to a seminar, be sure to check out the mini classes, because there are a lot of really neat short classes where you can learn some really fun things to do with your stitching. So that is my turkey berry. And that was what I did for this mini class the night before the St. Louis seminar started in 2019.
Hi there. I'm Wendy Lynn, and I would like to share a piece that I finished from EGA National Seminar 2019, which was held in St. Louis, Missouri. The name of the seminar was Gateway to the West. And the piece that I finished is a Gateway to the West evening bag that was designed by Michelle Roberts. The purse is no longer in my possession. I gave it to my daughter-in-law, who is from St. Louis. And when you see the piece, I think you'll understand why I stitched it for her in particular. I've created a very boring PowerPoint to show you pictures of the piece. And so I'm going to begin sharing my screen. And okay. And here is the piece. So this is what the bag looks like. So it was a hard case acrylic bag. It has a coiled chain strap to hold it on. It has a clip so that it opens in two pieces. And I stitched two sides to this bag. The first side is the fleur-de-lis. This was a challenge for me because it's gold work. And so I had to attach this gold coil to the purse in the form of the fleur-de-lis. What I didn't realize about St. Louis is that it was founded by the French originally and very heavily influenced by the French. A lot of the imagery and street names that you'll see there are similar to the ones you'll see in St. Louis. So the fleur-de-lis is also a symbol of St. Louis. I also had to attach pearls and beads inside the gold work. So this was all new to me. Side 2 of the bag is the skyline of St. Louis. It is Bargello for the most part, which I knew how to do, but you'll see the lovely skyline of St. Louis with the arch in the background. Anybody who's driven on the interstate past downtown St. Louis would recognize this site. And I knew that my daughter-in-law has a lot of feeling for that view. Now, the most difficult part of this piece for me was doing the interior. So on each side of the bag, I inserted the needlework that I just showed you, but I also inserted backing for those pieces. I had acid-free cardstock that the piece was mounted on, and then I attached this silky gold fabric and the ribbons, which you can use to be like a catch-all for any pieces that you carry in the bag. So I loved working on the piece. I loved giving the piece to my daughter-in-law. I'm going to stop sharing. And I hope that you find pieces at an EGA seminar that are as meaningful to you, that you're able to finish and share with people that you love. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patty, and today I'm going to show you my finished object from an Embroiderers Guild of America seminar. This is from Seminar 2015 in San Antonio, Texas. This is called Lady Bird Johnson's Wildflower Garden Penny Rug. It was designed and taught by Deborah Tirico, and it is wool felt applique with embroidery. It's all the wildflowers from Lady Bird Johnson's fabulous wildflower garden. And there's sunflowers, there's I think a spider lily. I forget the names of all the flowers, but you can see they're just spectacular. The cactus, I think that's agave or yucca. There's a desert rose. Of course, the Texas bluebonnets. These are called Mexican hats. Anyway, and of course, all around the edge are these wonderful little pennies. That is the reason why it's called a penny rug. And that's one of my finished objects.
Today I wanted to share with you a piece that I did at an EGA seminar in 2021. It's called The Magnificent Oak, and the designer is Laura Smith. And Laura is just a terrific designer and a terrific teacher. And she really encourages you to make the piece your own. So I did make some changes from Laura's original. First of all, I changed the orientation from portrait to landscape. Also, I made it a winter scene, and Laura had it either be spring or fall. We painted the background of the canvas. It's done on canvas, and I made mine a pale pink and blue to look more winter-like. Of course, I put snow on the trees, and also at the bottom, I used wool roving. I needle felted wool roving around the base of the tree and added small seed pearls. I'm really happy with it, and it reminds me of a tree that grows not too far from where I live. So thanks for stopping by.
Hi, I'm Patty, and we're talking about our finished objects from Embroiderers Guild of America seminars. And today I'm going to show you one of my favorites. It's by Jane Nicholas. It is Plum Blossom. It's on kimono, a piece of kimono silk. It's gold work and ornue, which it was the first time I did ornue, and I really, really liked it. I don't know whether you can see. It was just beautiful. Jane did an excellent job. I don't think anybody had any trouble completing this piece from her class. It was really, really good, and I had a great time. This was in New York City in 2023. I hope you enjoy it. Bye.
Hi, I'm Wendy Lynn, and I'm going to share with you today a piece that I stitched that was presented at the 2019 EGA National Seminar in St. Louis, Missouri. This was the first time the piece was offered. It's called Treasures of the Great Lakes, and I took this class for several reasons. First of all, it taught me how to attach different elements to my stitching that you wouldn't normally be attaching, like stones, pebbles, driftwood, shells. Also, it spoke to me because I live on the shore of Lake Michigan. The piece was designed by Dawn Donnelly, who's an EGA teacher from Michigan. So she provided us with some of these elements in our kits, as well as the Petoskey stone. And, she's very creative. I find her pieces very exciting to work on, and also they're usually doable, which is great. So this particular piece I was able to finish. I struggled a little with the needle lace stones, but was able to get it completed. I did have the piece professionally framed. I like having a professional help me pick out the matting and the frame that's appropriate to my piece. Although I do know how to lace a piece of stitched embroidery. I learned that at EGA at another class. But in this case, I hope you'll agree with me that having the professional touch added an element of additional beauty to this needlework. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jana, and I want to tell you about a finished project that I have from a seminar that I attended. This was from the Asheville seminar back in 2017. This is a Curdy Biggs class. It was called Mediterranean Jewel, and it happens to be a three-sided ornament. So there's one, there's two, and then there's the third one. It has a beaded tassel, and you were pretty much left to how you wanted to make your tassel. She gave you ideas, but how you executed it was completely up to you. And then, of course, we have a hanger, which is also beads with bicones. There are bicones here, bicones down here. Now, in order for you to see the detail a little bit better, I'm going to put this under a document camera because there's so much going on in this piece. So here we are under the document camera, and I'm going to start with the tassel. The tassel, I've made mine with 3 different legs of it. And let me get this straightened out a little bit here. So the outer 2, it's just Sundance beads. Those were, I believe they were size 11s, interspersed with some Swarovski crystals. These are crystal bicones. If I move this around a little bit, I think we can catch a little bit of a glint of light so that you can see that this thing really does have a sparkle to it, even just the tassel. And then the center one was built pretty much the same way, but I stuck a teardrop bead on the end of it, which also, if I move that around, you can see it too tends to catch the light. Then when it comes to the hanger, it was pretty much a plain kind of hanger. So it's just plain old beads that were strung and then down through another one of those bicones. So I mentioned that there were 3 sides. So here's one of the sides. We have ray stitches, we have road stitches. The sides of each of the ornaments are stitched with jessicas. And on each of the sides, as you'll see as I turn this to the other 2 sides, each of the jessicas has beads and a bicone nestled inside it. And if I turn it, we can catch just a little bit more light on there. Lots of beading going on, lots of beading. So that's the first side. Then we have the second side. And you can see the jessicas on the borders. In the center, we've got quite a ray stitch. The color difference is there because this was stitched using water lilies from Caron Collection. So I had to be very careful to try to lay that as smoothly as I possibly could. I think I was reasonably successful. And then over here, you can see we've got some Kreinik. This is number 4 braid. And the darker blue underneath was a petite silk lame from Rainbow Gallery. And of course, we have more bicones, more sparkle, more bling. And then we have on the third side, lots more bling. I think it took every bit as much time to put the beads on as it did to do the actual stitches, but it was so much fun. And it wasn't that hard to finish. It was just a little bit different from the usual finishes. Basically, you stitched it with in an L. This was all on one piece of canvas. So you would have 1 square here, 1 square here, and another square here. And you would cut out the square and then you would start putting it together. You would just simply do a whip stitch in joining the sides. And when you got around to the very bottom where all 3 of them met, and you had to put a tassel in there, that was maybe just a little fiddly, but I didn't do too bad a job, I don't think. You can't, as my mom used to say, you can't see it on a galloping horse. So the filling for this, I stuffed it with, I don't think I used regular fiber fill. I used a silk fiber fill, which I learned from a different class that sometimes that works even better to stuff ornaments with. But it was a lot of fun to stitch. The class itself, anytime you take a Curdy class, you're going to enjoy yourself. The hardest part of the class is counting. Hopefully you can count past 5 because you do have to be able to do that. And there's that last side with all the bling. So that's my finish from the seminar in Asheville in 2017.
Hi, I'm Patty, and I'm going to show you a finished object from an Embroiderers Guild of America seminar. This is the Lotus and Praying Mantis, which is a stumpwork piece by Jane Nicholas. And I took, it was a 4-day class that I took in Chicago in 2022 or 3, I can't remember. Anyway, it was just such fun. It's on a piece of antique kimono silk. I'm gonna zoom in. Look at that guy. That's my praying mantis. It was great fun to do his wings, which are sort of couched, spiraled metallic cord. We had to do his legs and his head, and the lotus blossom is done, of course, in stump work with the leaves being done separately. And the stems of the lotus blossoms were done in a stitch that was really fun to do. Also, this part of the leaf is also stump work. It's raised. I don't know if you can see that, but that's also dimensional. It was a lot of fun to do. If you ever have a chance to take a class by Jane Nicholas, take it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.
In 2023, I attended the Boston Stitch Party EGA National Seminar. It had been many years since I was able to attend a seminar, and it was a wonderful experience to be back in a room full of stitchers taking a class, learning new things. The class I took was Beekeepers Miniature Sewing Box. It was designed and taught by Catherine Theron, and the design is lovely. It features the phrase, "No bees, no honey, no work, no money," and it's a phrase I've always loved. I always wanted to take a class with Catherine Theron, and so this was a wonderful opportunity, and it didn't disappoint. The piece works into a 2-inch cube, 4 sides with the phrase, each one containing the phrase. There are a total of 7 small panels, all stitched on 32 count linen. The design elements are bee skeps, bees, and lots of lovely little flowers. And here is my actual piece. Each of the 4 panels illustrates a portion of the saying. So, no bees, no honey, no work, no money. On the bottom, there is a personalized portion with my information on it and 4 little darling feet. The lid has a lovely little bee charm that serves as a handle to lift it up, revealing the silk-lined interior as well as a coordinated scissor fob with a bee on it, and the lid has a matching pin cushion on the inside. All in all, it's a lovely piece. The finishing instructions were great. I could follow them and finish it. The finishing isn't perfect, but it's good enough for government work.